Ensley Drew Barnes here. The night I turned 18, I blew out the candles on a cheap grocery store cake while my stepmom slammed a stack of papers on the dining table in our Wichita house. Sign this right now, or get out forever. Kimberly Brooks snapped, jabbing her finger at the old trust copy. $1.4 million was never meant for a little brat like you. That money belongs to this family. My dad, Richard Carter, just stared at the floor. My stepbrother Colton leaned back in his chair and smirked like Christmas came early. I didn't sign. 10 minutes later, I was on the sidewalk with one backpack -7-degree wind slicing through my hoodie and the front door locked behind me. I still walked the same route I'd walked for months. Same dark corner. Same elderly woman wrapped in a thin coat sitting quietly on flattened cardboard with a tin cup in front of her. Like every night, I dug out my last $5 bill and slipped it in. That's when her dry fingers clamped around my wrist with surprising strength. She pulled me down and whispered, eyes wide with terror. "Listen close, child. Tonight you do not sleep on the street. Not the park. Not anywhere they expect. Find a cheap motel, pay cash, lock the door. Tomorrow morning come back here. I have something that will save your life." Welcome to my story. If you've ever been betrayed by the people supposed to love you most, stay until the end. Like if you're watching from somewhere cold tonight, comment your city below and subscribe for more real family drama and revenge stories every single day. I stood shaking on the dark Wichita sidewalk, digging through my backpack for the last crumpled bills I had left. $127 earned from washing dishes at the diner all summer. That was it. That was everything. The wind cut straight through my hoodie, dropping the temperature to -7. I walked east on Kellogg until a flickering pink neon sign caught my eye. Starlight Motel, vacancy. The clerk never looked up from his phone as I slid $38 across the counter. Cash, only no ID, no questions. Room 12 smelled like old smoke and bleach, but the deadbolt worked and the window locked. I kept my boots on, curled up under the thin blanket, still wearing my coat, and cried until there was nothing left. Next morning, I went straight back to the corner. Mrs. Evelyn was already sitting on her usual piece of cardboard tin cup in front of her coat pulled tight. I crouched down. You knew something was coming that night. How she studied me for a long moment. "Call me Mrs. Evelyn Rose Harlan. I've been watching out for you, child. The people in that house want you gone bad." I told her everything, the trust, the way Kimberly kept waving the old copy around, screaming that if I didn't get the money, it would still end up with my dad, how she was convinced it belonged to the family. Mrs. Evelyn listened without interrupting, then nodded like she'd heard the same story 100 times before. That afternoon, I walked into the 24-hour Quick Trip 2 blocks from the park and begged the manager for any open shift. He hired me on the spot for overnight cashier, $10 an hour, cash, no paperwork. First, real money wouldn't come for 2 weeks, but I needed something now. The nights turned into a rhythm. Clock in at 11, mop floors, stock shelves, ring up truckers and club kids until 7. I lived on 99-cent noodles and day-old donuts from the marked-down rack. Every single shift I set aside $5, sometimes $10. When the sun came up, I walked to the corner and slipped it into Mrs. Evelyn's cup. She never asked where it came from, just pressed my cold fingers between her dry ones and said thank you. Some nights, a sharp chemical smell drifted over from the park, like someone had spilled a whole tank of gas. I told myself it was just the station across the street. I was too tired to think harder. Then one morning, after pulling a double because someone called in sick, I cut through the park like always. Yellow tape blocked every entrance. Fire trucks were gone, but the stench of gasoline and melted plastic hung thick. Every bench I used to crash on when the motel money ran low was blackened and twisted. The exact corner where I hid my backpack under a tarp was nothing but ash and a burned-out sleeping bag someone else had left behind. A couple of investigators were taking samples from a scorched plastic bottle with a rag still jammed in the neck. One of them told his partner they had 2 clear pore patterns and a shoe print in the damp grass. I stood there staring at the destruction stomach dropping so hard I thought I would be sick right on the sidewalk. Those benches had been my backup plan. Someone had just made sure I had nowhere left to go. I slowed my steps the moment the red and blue lights started flashing against the burned-out benches. The whole north end of the park was cordoned off with yellow tape that snapped in the wind. 2 fire investigators in navy jackets were on their knees scraping soot into evidence jars while another officer photographed a half-melted water bottle with a rag still jammed in the neck. The air tasted like gasoline and melted plastic. A familiar silver Honda screeched to the curb. Lauren Marie Evans jumped out diner apron flapping eyes wide. "Ensley, I've been driving these streets every morning looking for you." She reached for me. I took one step back. "I'm handling it," I said. "You call this handling it?" She waved at the destruction. "Get in the car. You're coming home with me." I shook my head. "I can't pull you into whatever this is." She opened her mouth to fight, but I was already walking away. That evening, after wiping counters and restocking energy drinks until my fingers smelled like citrus cleaner, I went straight to the corner. Mrs. Evelyn was already there, coat pulled tight against the cold. I crouched beside her. "You knew something was coming the night I got kicked out." How she patted the cardboard. "Sit." I sat. She kept her voice low. 3 weeks ago, I noticed the same kid circling this block almost every night. Expensive sneakers, nice jacket, never dropped a penny. Just watched you count your money, watched where you walked. I've seen that look before. It's the look of someone planning distance. She reached inside her layers and pressed a tiny black USB drive into my palm, along with a folded scrap of paper. The paper had 2 words in shaky block letters. "Watch alone." "I bought a cheap solar camera at the pawn shop," she whispered. "Mounted it high on the lamppost across the street. Been running ever since I first saw him. Whatever's on that drive, you look at it by yourself first. Then you decide what has to be done." I closed my fist around it. Why risk this for me? Because 20 years ago my own son decided I was worth more dead than alive. Nobody stood up for me then. I'm too old to fight, but I'm not too old to hand you the weapon. Back in room 12, I locked the door, dragged the dresser in front of it, and plugged the drive into the cracked laptop. One file. I clicked play. Night vision footage time-stamped 4 nights ago. 2 figures crossed into frame carrying red plastic cans. The taller one set his down, pulled out a phone, and tilted the screen toward the light. Colton Brooks, my stepbrother, grinning like it was all a joke. He turned to his friend. "We finish this before Friday. She signs at the bank next week, and that money's locked to her forever. After that, no second chances." His buddy laughed, unscrewed the cap, and started splashing liquid across every bench I rotated between. Colton joined in, making sure the exact corner where I hid my backpack got completely soaked. He looked straight into his own phone and said, "One less problem." Then he lit the match. I watched it 3 full times, heart hammering so loud I was sure the neighbors could hear. Every second was evidence. Every word was a death sentence. I sat frozen on the edge of the motel bed, hands trembling so hard the empty plastic cup slipped from my fingers and cracked against the tile floor. The clip was still running on the cracked laptop screen. I dragged the progress bar back to the exact second Colton tilted his phone toward the streetlight. The text thread glowed bright against his face. The sender name at the top read, "Kimberly Brooks. My stepmother." The final message, sent 19 minutes before they struck the match, was impossible to misread. "Trust clause is clear. If she doesn't claim it before the signing date, every dollar rolls straight to your dad. Do it fast and clean. No mistakes this time." I stared at those words until they blurred. They weren't trying to scare me into leaving town. They genuinely believed that if I disappeared before I signed at the bank, the money would automatically become my father's again. They were wrong, but they were ready to murder me over that mistake. My chest tightened so hard I couldn't breathe. I fumbled for my phone and dialed the only number I trusted. Lauren answered on the first ring. "Where are you?" "Room 12. Get here now. Don't stop for anything." She was at my door in under 15 minutes, still wearing the same diner apron from earlier. I locked the door behind her, dragged the dresser in front of it again, and hit play, without explanation. We watched the entire thing in total silence. When Colton's laugh echoed through the tiny room, Lauren's hand flew to her mouth. When Kimberly's text filled the screen, she grabbed the edge of the bed like she might fall off. "That's your stepbrother," she whispered. "And that's my stepmom giving him orders." She stared at the frozen frame, then at me. "They think killing you hands the money to your dad on a silver platter. That's what the old copy they stole from Grandpa's safe says I managed. They never saw the updated version." Lauren's eyes turned hard. "We're taking this straight to the police tomorrow morning. No discussion." I barely slept. Every creak outside the door sounded like footsteps. Around dawn, I slipped out and walked to the corner. Mrs. Evelyn was already there, wrapped in the same faded coat. I crouched beside her. "You saved my life." She shook her head slowly. "Not yet." But I recognized the look on that boy's face weeks ago. Same look my own son wore the night he decided I was worth more dead. I wasn't letting history repeat itself on my watch. "How did you know to set up the camera?" "Had a feeling the night you first told me about that trust. Greed makes people stupid, but it also makes them predictable. I've been sleeping with one eye open for 20 years. Figured it was time that served someone else." She pressed my hand once, warm and steady. "You do what you have to do now. I'll still be right here." Lauren grabbed my arm the second I stepped back into the room. "We're leaving in 5 minutes." I called in sick to the diner. "This ends today." Lauren reversed out of the motel lot before the sun had even cleared the rooftops and drove straight to the Wichita Police Department's Central Station on South Market Street. We walked through the glass doors while the lobby was still half empty. The desk sergeant took one look at my face and buzzed us through without a word. Detective Anthony Morales met us in a small interview room with gray walls and a table bolted to the floor. He was in his early 40s, salt and pepper hair, calm eyes that didn't miss anything. I placed the black USB drive on the table. "This is video of my stepbrother pouring gasoline in the park where I've been sleeping. My stepmom told him to do it." He inserted the drive into his laptop without comment and hit play. The room stayed silent except for Colton's voice coming through the speakers bragging about deadlines and money. When Kimberly's text lit up the screen, Morales paused, leaned in, and read it twice. Then he looked at me. "You have the trust document." I slid the folded copy across the same pages Kimberly had waved in my face the night she threw me out. He scanned the clause she loved, quoting the one about funds reverting to my father if I failed to claim them. Morales nodded once. "Sit tight." They kept us most of the day. First, a technician confirmed the video hadn't been edited and the metadata was intact. Then they ran Colton's face through the system. Driver license photo popped up instantly. Another detective brought in the friend from the footage less than 2 hours later. The kid lawyered up fast but still gave a written statement admitting he'd been paid $200 to help teach someone a lesson. By late afternoon, Morales returned. "We have enough for an arrest warrant. Attempted aggravated arson carries heavy time in Kansas. We're picking him up tonight." Lauren drove me to her apartment so I wouldn't be alone. At 12:47 a.m., my phone lit up with Morales's number. "Colton Brooks is in custody," he said, voice steady. "Uniforms hit the house on North Woodlawn 20 minutes ago. He tried to run out the back, but we had the yard covered. He's not talking yet, but the evidence is airtight." I asked about Kimberly. She arrived 10 minutes later screaming this was all a mistake. Already had a lawyer on speed dial, best criminal firm in the state. Judge granted bail with conditions: ankle monitor, no contact order, surrender passport. She's home now, but the bracelet lights up if she gets within 500 feet of you. Lauren let me crash on her couch that night. The next morning, the dark sedan was already parked across the street from the convenience store when I left for my shift. Same car shadowed Lauren's Honda the following 2 nights. Kimberly might be wearing an ankle bracelet, but she still believed the money would end up with my dad no matter what she did, and she wasn't finished trying. Friday morning, the trust officer from First National Bank on East Douglas called while I was wiping down the lottery counter between customers. Miss Barnes, the final paperwork is ready. Bring 2 forms of ID and come in anytime today. Once you sign the acceptance documents, the entire 1.4 million transfers immediately into the segregated account we created in your name only. No cosigners, no overrides. I told the store manager I had a family emergency and clocked out early. Lauren picked me up in her Honda and we drove downtown in silence. The bank lobby was cool and quiet, marble floors echoing under my sneakers. A private office, thick carpet, heavy wood desk. The officer walked me through every page: tax forms, beneficiary designations, fraud protections, penalty clauses. She slid the final signature sheet across. This is it. After this line, no one can touch the principal without your written consent ever. I signed Ensley Drew Barnes in black ink steady for the first time in weeks. When the scanner beeped confirmation, she smiled. Congratulations. You're now a very wealthy young woman. We walked out into blinding noon sunlight. My new debit card felt strange in my pocket, like it belonged to someone else. The calls started before we reached the car. Unknown Wichita number, then Kimberly's name flashed on the screen. I let it ring out 5 times, then a text. We need to talk as a family. I can explain everything. Meet me, please. I blocked her. Detective Morales rang an hour later while Lauren was driving us to grab lunch. Your stepmother just tripped the ankle monitor perimeter 3 separate times. She hired a private investigator licensed out of Topeka. Same guy's been sitting on the convenience store lot and outside Lauren's apartment building since yesterday. We've got him on traffic cams switching vehicles to avoid pattern recognition. Uniforms are bringing him in now for questioning. I thanked him and hung up, fingers cold, despite the heat. That night, I worked the closing shift alone. At 11:03, the last customer left, and I locked the front doors, counted. The drawer turned off the neon open sign. The back parking lot was almost empty, just 2 semis idling under the floodlights. I had my keys out heading for Lauren's car when a black Chevy Suburban rolled in fast and cut me off. The driver's window dropped. A man in a dark windbreaker leaned out, face half-shadowed, and extended a phone toward me without saying a word. Kimberly's voice came through the speaker, low and venomous. Drop every charge, Ensley. Sign the money over to your father like the trust intended, and this all goes away. Keep pushing, and next time there won't be a warning. I backed up until my spine hit the cinder block wall. The man kept the phone steady, waiting. I pulled my own cell from my apron, hit the speed dial button Morales had programmed in, and switched it to speaker so the guy could hear every word. Detective, I'm in the east lot of the 24-hour store on Kellogg. Black Suburban, Kansas plate starting Tango 49er. Your messenger is delivering a threat for Kimberly Brooks right now. Morales's voice cut in, instantly calm and sharp. Stay exactly where you are. Units en route, 90 seconds. The Suburban's engine roared. Tires smoked as it reversed hard, clipped a dumpster, and disappeared toward the on-ramp. I stood under the buzzing light pulse hammering in my ears, knowing the fight had just moved to a whole new level. Sirens split the night before the Suburban even reached the highway ramp. 3 unmarked sedans and 2 marked patrol units boxed it in at the I-135 interchange. The driver tried to jump the median. An officer tackled him face first onto the asphalt before he cleared 10 yards. Inside the vehicle, they found the burner phone still warm from Kimberly's call, a printed Google Maps page with the convenience store circled in red marker, and an envelope holding $5,000 in hundreds, banded with a rubber band and a handwritten note, final warning. No mistakes. Lauren and I reached the station just after 2 in the morning to give formal statements. By the time the sun came up, the hired driver had already signed a full confession contacted by my stepmother 2 days earlier, instructed to put the fear of God into me and make sure I dropped every charge. He even handed over the original text thread from Kimberly spelling out exactly what he was supposed to say. The duty judge revoked her bail at 3:17 a.m. Uniforms rolled up to the house on North Woodlawn before the streetlights went off. No high-priced lawyer this time. Kimberly was processed in an orange jumpsuit and taken straight to Sedgwick County Jail. The prosecutor added felony witness tampering and criminal threat to the existing charges. Every joint account she shared with my father was frozen by noon. A lien hit the property the same afternoon. Richard Carter showed up at the Starlight Motel 36 hours later. He looked like he hadn't slept since the arrest shirt, untucked eyes, bloodshot hands shaking as he stood in the lobby doorway. The night clerk buzzed my room. I almost told him to send my father away. Instead, I walked down. He dropped to his knees the second he saw me, right on the worn carpet between the ice machine and the vending machines. "Ensley, please?" He choked out, voice raw. "Drop the charges. Kimberly and Colton, they got carried away, but they're still your family. I never wanted anyone hurt. I just wanted us all to stay together like before." I stared down at him. "You stood silent the night she threw me out with nothing. You read the same trust copy she did. You let them believe if I disappeared, the money would come to you. I thought we could fix it." He whispered, tears cutting tracks through the stubble on his cheeks. "I never believed they'd actually. You never stopped them either." He reached for my hand. I stepped back. "You all read one paragraph of that trust and built your whole plan around it," I said, voice flat. "You were wrong from the first day. And now it's too late." Security appeared behind him. 2 officers in cheap uniforms took his arms and lifted him gently to his feet. He didn't fight, just kept repeating my name as they walked him out. I watched through the glass doors as he sat in his pickup for almost half an hour, forehead pressed to the steering wheel, before finally driving away. Several months later, I stood outside the main courtroom at the Sedgwick County Courthouse, hands in the pockets of a new coat that actually kept the Kansas wind out. Inside the gallery was almost empty, just a couple reporters and Lauren sitting beside me. The judge read the verdicts without raising his voice. Kimberly Brooks received 7 years for felony witness tampering, criminal threat, and conspiracy to commit aggravated arson. Colton Brooks drew 5 years in juvenile custody until he turned 21, then automatic transfer to adult prison. The house on North Woodlawn was sold at sheriff's auction within weeks. My father lost everything except the old pickup he still drove to dead-end jobs that barely paid rent on a 1-bedroom apartment near the river. I used part of the trust to move Mrs. Evelyn Rose Harlan into Sunrise Meadows, the best assisted living campus outside Wichita. Private room with big windows, fresh flowers every week, 3 restaurant-style meals a day. The first time she walked through the garden path in real shoes instead of plastic bags wrapped around her feet, she cried so hard the nurse thought something was wrong. Lauren moved into the spare bedroom of the little house I bought on South Hydraulic. She quit the diner, enrolled full-time at Wichita State with the scholarship I set up in her name, and we painted the walls bright colors that didn't remind either of us of motels or jail cells. On the final day of testimony, the trust attorney from First National took the stand to enter the official document into the record. He read the clause my grandfather quietly added when I was 16, the one Kimberly and my father never saw: should Ensley Drew Barnes die, or otherwise fail to accept the trust principal prior to the designated signing date, the entire corpus shall transfer irrevocably to the Harold Barnes Memorial Scholarship Fund for at-risk youth of Sedgwick County. No portion shall revert to Richard Carter or any other family member under any circumstance. Kimberly's face collapsed. She stared at the page like it had reached out and slapped her. The courtroom was silent except for the soft thud of the judge's gavel confirming the exhibit. After sentencing, deputies led her past me in handcuffs and leg irons. She stopped, eyes wild. "That money was supposed to be ours," she hissed through the space between us. I looked straight at her. You tried to kill me for money that was never going to you anyway. You lost everything because of greed. That's the price. I walked out into the Kansas sunlight without looking back. Sometimes kindness comes from strangers when family fails you. Sometimes the people who share your blood are the ones who hurt you most. But the real family, the one that matters, is the one you choose, and the one that chooses you back. Mrs. Evelyn taught me that with $5 and a warning. Lauren proved it every single day. And I learned that no amount of money is worth selling your soul for. If you're watching this and someone in your life has shown you what real family looks like even when it wasn't the one you were born into, drop your city in the comments and tell me their name. Let's remind each other that kindness always finds its way back, even when everything else falls apart.